Hello, and welcome to a new episode of The Career Changers. Today, we welcome for the second time on our show Benjamin Ritter, a leadership and career coach passionate about guiding others in finding, creating, and sustaining a career they love. With over 10 years of experience coaching clients from companies such as Amazon, Google, Pinterest, and Yelp, Ben understands how to navigate any career path you decide you want to travel. Before that, he has been a career changer himself. With his new upcoming book, Becoming Fearless, set to launch in September, today Benjamin is here to reveal how we can become fearless and where that can lead us during our journey to self realization. Hi, Benjamin. Welcome back. And thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to talking about the topic of fearless and hopefully helping some people become a little bit more fearless.
Definitely. So let's start with the first question. What inspired you to write Becoming Fearless?
Well, I was taking a look at who I was helping and the goals that they were achieving in their careers, new jobs, growing as leaders, but ultimately what ended up happening is they were just becoming more comfortable with discomfort and aligning their lives to their values and to their goals. Generally, that related to becoming fearless. And so I actually started first a podcast series called Fearless Fridays. And every Friday I would get on LinkedIn and make a quick video, 2 to 3 minutes, about how someone can be fearless in their professional or personal life. And I got so much just like positive feedback that I'm like, well, there's something here. And this is at the core of what people need to truly grow and to become more accountable and responsible and empowered for their careers. Let's do something with it. So it turned into a book. It was about a year and a half journey from idea to where we are today. And hopefully it adds as much value as the podcast or even more.
Sounds exciting. And generally, when we decide to work on something, is it also because we experience it in our own life. What fears did you have to overcome during your journey to self-realization?
And the whole reason why I launched Live for Yourself Consulting, which, the book is part of that business, is that I was an unhappy career professional that had very little to no confidence into who I was. And I was working every single day and really just trying to avoid work. And that negativity, that resentment, that victimhood impacted not just my professional career and my relationships and my success, but also my personal life and those relationships and the success of them. And so it's it's really important, I think, that when we create something from a service perspective, like I've created today, that it has some sort of foundation in who we are. And so when I figured out how to change, how to evolve, how to grow, how to become more empowered and accountable, and how to lead myself forwards, that is like a lesson that I want to help other people learn.
Mm.
So those moments in my past in my career, being unhappy, being a victim, feeling negative, kind of burning bridges, feeling unconfident, that's really been those are the fears, right? The fear of not being good enough, the fear of not being successful, the fear that, the belief that everything is hopeless. So those are things that I think are more common, but not enough people are really talking about that. It's like we see the success that we've all had, but we don't talk about the fact that it was very difficult generally to get to where we are today.
Mm. So I guess you had to do this first during your own journey. But how can someone start to identify and confront their fears?
It can be very difficult for someone to realize where they're afraid because generally where we're holding ourselves back are based on certain beliefs that we have. So first off, that's kind of what the book is for too, to raise a little bit of a light bulb moment. So you're reading through these 65 different tips in your personal and professional life. Generally, if you come across something that kind of sparks something within you, you're like, oh, okay, that seems interesting. That seems weird. I can't do that. Or, wow, what would life be like if that happened in my life? Then that's an area that you probably need to work on in terms of fear and it holding you back. The other way is just to kind of sit down and say, like, if if I believed I could accomplish anything, what would I change about where I'm at today? In our professional lives, if I got hired tomorrow and I started this job again, what would I do differently? And generally, the reason why we want to kind of create this new world is because the fears hold us back from actually understanding what can change. And so if you ask yourself that question, generally you get some ideas and then you can start working on those areas.
Mhm. So, how can we differentiate between a rational and irrational fear?
Well, if you're going to be safe, if you do this thing, like not emotionally or mentally, but more so like physically, you will not be harmed by doing something like speaking up in a meeting or applying to a job or reaching out to someone for a networking call, then generally, and you're afraid of those things, and generally you might be able to call that irrational because what's the actual harm that will come from taking steps forwards towards this thing? Well, nothing. Okay, so then the fear that we have might be irrational because there's other people in the world that aren't really afraid of this thing, and you're going to be physically okay at the end of it. I think it's a difficult question because to everyone their fears are real. They're things that hold them back. But you could just ask yourself, if I accomplished this thing, would I like my life more? Would I enjoy my career more? If so, then we can say that that might not be an irrational fear in your life, and we should take some action to try to change it.
Mm. So many times overcoming fear is actually the first step in the right direction for our personal growth. How does facing fears contribute to personal growth, in your opinion?
Oh, I mean, anytime you do anything new in your life, that's growth. Even if you're doing something that you're normally good at, that could be considered growth. Any action, any change, any movement, any momentum is growth. And have you seen that fun little meme where it's like your comfort zone and then it has like growth outside of your comfort zone? It's generally life, if you're looking to improve something, involves you getting uncomfortable and changing something that you're doing now. Because what you've done to get to where you are isn't going to be the same to get to where you want to be. If it's different. So confronting your fears generally means that you're doing something different. And that
Mm.
generally means that you're going to grow.
So you're coaching many people, you've been coaching many people during the years. What are some signs that fear is holding someone back from reaching their potential?
The statement, I can't do that, 100%. The statement, that's not possible, or I couldn't do that, or you just don't understand. If you respond to anyone that's maybe presenting some other opinions or solutions to your struggles, to what you want to achieve, generally fear is holding you back because fear tends to create the belief that doing the thing that you want to do is not safe and not possible.
Mm. And so, what type of advice would you give to someone that feels paralyzed by fear and they cannot move forward in their life or career?
hmm Well, the best advice would be to have someone nudge you a little forward a little bit and help you feel safe in the process. It's kind of like when you jump into a pool. Maybe you don't know how to swim, but you have a floaty on. Well, even if you have a floaty on, you might not still go in the pool because you still might not feel safe. But if someone goes into the pool with you and you feel like you're not going to drown because you've taken the proper precautions, but you're in the pool, then generally when you're paralyzed by fear, you're not as afraid because no matter what can happen, you're still going to be safe. So a little nudge, a little push, some support can be very helpful. That's not, people don't always have that capability. So the first thing then would just be to assess the situation outside of yourself. So taking that example of jumping in the pool again, well, walk around the pool, take notes, look at how deep the pool is, measure the water, go into the shallow end for a bit, realize that you're going to be okay. So basically, what you're doing is you're trying to objectively assess the situation so that you're getting out of your fear. Because your fear is looking at a situation and then creating a negative experience from that observation. So when you are in a situation that you're afraid, try to assess the facts instead of just your beliefs. And then just after that assessment, just track that down and track that down. Just build information. And eventually you can ask yourself, well, what's one thing I can do to test the facts of this situation instead of just my beliefs. So for example, if it's I want to get promoted. I'm afraid of getting promoted though because I don't feel that I'm good enough. Okay, well, what are the facts of the situation? You explore your past, your experience, the fact that you're hired for a job you're in now. Maybe you go get some feedback from your manager, from a coworker, and so you're assessing all this information to say objectively, oh, okay, maybe I do qualify for this next step. So what's one action I can do to maybe prove this to myself? Maybe it's sharing an idea in a meeting. Maybe it's sending an email to someone that's kind of responsible for those promotions. Maybe it's meeting with someone for a skip level meeting for 15 minutes just to understand their career path. And as we start building that information objectively and then taking some action, generally we'll start to become fearless.
Mhm. So let's talk about fear in our professional life. What are some common fears that professionals face in the workplace?
Yeah, I thought, let's see actually, because I have my book in front of me. I'm just going to read some of them. So there's generally not engaging in meetings, not trusting people you work with, not really trusting how people work, not bringing up problems instead of solutions. You're afraid of actually give solutions. You're afraid of giving feedback or asking for feedback. You're afraid that things aren't going to get done, so you multitask. You're afraid to delegate work. And that's just a very, very small portion of the fears that we have in our professional life that are part of the book. It's basically it's basically siloing ourselves in our professional life and instead of being proactive and accountable for our success.
That's interesting. And how can someone deal with the fear of rejection or criticism in their career? Sometimes fear of rejection may hold us back in terms of not trying to do something new or not apply for a new job or not change career.
We have to redefine what rejection is. Working with a client right now who feels that any automated email from a job that they apply to is rejection.
Mm.
And so we had a very long conversation about how to redefine, how to reframe what rejection actually means and what it is. What's the benefit of rejection? Um, let's look at the facts of the situation with rejection. Do they know you? Is this actually a person? Did you take the proper steps to build a brand that aligns with the job? Do you think that they hired someone that they know, or how many applicants do you think they got? So really going through and assessing the situation of what are the facts. Is this truly rejection? What is it really? Let's label and define the words that we're using, because an automated message from a job is not rejection. And once you're able to redefine the definition of the thing that you're afraid of, and then look at the facts of the situation, and then also ask yourself, well, what are the goals? And is the fear of the situation, the potential consequence of maybe getting an automated email worth potentially getting a job that you're going to be in for 5 to 10 years? And you kind of work through that in your mind too to prove to yourself the thing that you're afraid of truly isn't something to be afraid of. The
Mm.
other thing is also just exposure. If you apply for 2 jobs and get rejected from 2 jobs, it hurts a lot. It can hurt a lot. If you apply to 150 jobs and get rejected from 20 jobs, well, it hurts a little bit less.
Yeah, so really important to redefine rejection. So you're helping many people in their careers. What role does mentorship play in helping individuals become fearless in their careers?
In my own career path, my mentor changed my trajectory. Mentors and even coaches or a trusted confidant, a friend, or someone, an experienced individual. And if you're early on in your career, there's a lot of people that will sit down and have a conversation with you if you just ask. But they allow you to really think about your thoughts, your feelings, and beliefs in a way that leads to some sort of positive action or reframe that you can't do on your own. So generally when we're stuck in fear, we're stuck in our own mind. We're stuck in our beliefs. We label everything that's happening as something to be afraid of and negative. But when we have a mentor to talk to, that person helps us actually look at our thoughts in a way that is more objective. And also with their own frame of reference, which generally is not clouded in fear. And so when you're talking to a mentor, they can help you see solutions. They can help you understand that you are reacting in fear, or maybe you didn't realize it. They can help you reframe things in a more positive and optimistic way so that you're looking towards taking positive action and see solutions. And now, generally, if your mentor is negative, that's not going to happen. But if your mentor also is positive and is positive and is goal oriented and is trying to help you and support you, then they can help you really detach from your fear.
Mhm. So let's talk about fear and relationships. How can fear impact personal relationships and how can it be addressed?
I mean, fear can be responsible for you just closing the door and locking yourself away and not engaging with anybody. So when you
Mm.
think about personal relationships, it really just depends on how fear might relate to it. Fear can impact your intimate relationships, your personal relationships, your friends, your acquaintances. It can prevent you from creating a network, prevent you from saying hi to someone that could become the love of your life. It could prevent you from sharing certain information about yourself with your close friends. Fear can hold you back unbelievably. And so pretty broad, but just in terms, it can, fear impacts every single aspect of our life.
And what role does vulnerability play in overcoming fear in relationships?
I think we have to redefine again. We're using these terms like rejection or vulnerability that have negative connotation. To some people, vulnerability can have a positive like reference, but most people that live in fear see vulnerability as something that's dangerous. Vulnerability is just being honest. It's like, and way too many people see vulnerability as something as akin to um, sharing parts of themselves that aren't going to be accepted by the people around them. And that's just not true. If you walk into a room and feel comfortable being yourself, that's true confidence and that's true fearlessness. So I would like to just get rid of the word vulnerability and just say feel comfortable being yourself.
Mhm. I like that. So let's talk about your book launch. So coming up in September, do you have a date?
Yeah, September 17th is what we're slated for. We got a big launch party out in Austin, Texas. We'll launch in all the versions online. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Oh, special date for me was the my dad's birthday, so it's a
Oh,
nice
wow.
date to remember. So what can the readers expect from becoming fearless? If you could say something in a few words.
Yeah, so basically, it is a book that covers 65 different areas of your life in the personal and professional world, so all encompassing. And it provides one-page tips that will help you pretty much understand how fear is holding you back and then what action you can take to start becoming fearless. Fearlessness requires you to do something, that something will help you reframe and create something new in your life that will prove to you that the fear, the thing that you thought was holding you back, isn't really real. And hopefully create some transformation in the people around you and yourself.
So what was for you the most challenging part of writing this book?
Ooh, the most challenging part, understanding that writing a book takes time and I want things done yesterday. So I think with anything in our life, even just growing in our careers, like really plotting out a realistic time frame on how you're going to achieve something. Everyone has to start as a intern or an assistant at some point until they become a CEO, and the same thing with the book. And started as someone in the mailroom, and now it's graduating as an executive. Just took a little bit of time.
So if someone would know what's the difference between your book and many other self-books that are out there based on fear, what would you say?
Well, I wrote it, which is
So it's
one
the
thing that's
best one.
different. I don't know if it's the best one, but it is the most specific one. So books tend to be 300 pages of repetitive repetition or stories, maybe a lot of content that you don't isn't really targeted towards helping you take action in the area of your life that you want to change. And generally, books do that because one, maybe they want to fill a certain word count, but maybe they also do it because by putting you in story, you can sometimes like the impact might be a little bit greater, or by repeating things, you might be more likely to remember it. I like to read by like I want the impact to be in the words that I'm reading. And so when you think about reading a book of 65 different strategies. Each one of those strategies has a direct impact in your life and will help you become fearless. And so that's what's different about it.
Mhm. So, based on your experience of writing the book, do you have any advice for aspiring authors who want to write about personal development?
Well, anyone can write a book and hit publish any day they want. Now, if you want to sell your book or you want people to know about your book, there's a lot of different tips. But ultimately, if you never start writing, you'll never hit publish. So the first step is just to start writing, and your first draft will never be your final draft. Never edit while you're writing. And so basically, the words are just write. Just write. People want to hear from you.
Mhm. And what are your hopes for the impact of becoming fearless on its readers?
Well, hopefully, the same impact from how I work with as a coach. I'm hoping that people can become the leaders of their career and their life, and to feel that they are enough and are accountable and empowered to create whatever they want in the world.
Mhm. So we're reaching the end of this episode. We have a few more questions. First of all, what advice would you give to anyone who feels stuck because they are scared of taking the next step in their life or career?
Well, our careers are basically just a bunch of jobs. Unless we never change our job, then it's one job. Our career is supposed to change, and just by moving away from one job doesn't mean you're never going to get another job. And if you want something to change, the only way to do that is to let go of what you're currently doing to do something else. It's not like, and you're still going to have a career. That's just the world we live in, unless you decide to exit the world we live in and go live on an island by yourself. So ultimately, you will have to have some sort of job. And if you don't like the one you're in, why not change it?
Mm. And really, the last question, if you could give yourself a piece of advice, what would you say to your younger self to help them overcome their fears?
Nobody cares. Nobody cares what degrees I've done, what grade point average I got. No one cares the words I said when I was in junior high, or no one cares the words of the relationships I had in college. No one remembers the things that I did last week. Nobody cares. The only person that cares generally is you. So I choose to be the champion for myself and for my jobs and for my career, for my relationships, and that means that I show up in a way that makes me proud, and I don't worry about what other people think.
Well, thank you, Benjamin, for joining us today and sharing your inspirational wisdom with our listeners. And I'm sure they will be waiting for your book on the 17th of September.
I love how easy the date is to remember. Thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate our conversation again.
Thank you. And the last message for our listeners, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and tune in next week for a new inspirational episode of the Career Changers. Thank you.